Start with lab Datadog getting started with a Helm chart. So click on this lab. Click on open Google console. Again with the student username and password. Now the Google Cloud console is open. So let's agree to the terms of service. Agree and continue. So now moving on. There are 7 tasks in this lab which you have to complete. So open activate the cloud shell. Maximize this tab. Click on continue. Type gcloud hotlist. Authorize the cloud shell. Authorized. First task is cloning the repository. So in Cloud Shell, you need to run the following commands. So the first command will clone the repository. Then you will be adding the Datadog repository using a Helm repo add Datadog. Then you just update the repository using a Helm repo update. Then you are authenticating the pre-created cluster using gcloud container clusters get credential. So all these command you need to execute. You can execute one by one or you can execute one at a time. So let me execute it one by one. So it has now cloned the git repository. Let's run this second command, helm repo add datadog. So now we are adding the datadog repository. So the datadog has been added to your repository. Now just execute helm repo update. So the update is complete. Now you authenticate the cluster which is already pre-created. So it shows fetching cluster endpoint and authentication data entry generated for Datadog cluster demo. So now this is complete. Next, you need to set up a Datadog trial account to use in the lab. If you already have the trial account, you can use that, or else you need to do the setup again. Open this in a new tab. Just need to fill the information. You can give any information, dummy information, and just sign up for this. For filling the details, you need to select a software stack. So in this lab, we'll be using the Google Cloud Platform Kubernetes. Once you have filled the information in the accounts tab, the next step is you have to select your stack. So here there are many stacks available. So we need Google Cloud and Kubernetes. So under stack, let's select Kubernetes and Google Cloud Platform. Then click on next. Here under agents, you can see many agents listed here. Select on Kubernetes. After selecting the Kubernetes engine, you can see this set of commands. You don't have to run any of these commands. You just need to select this Datadog API key. Copy this API key to a notepad and keep it. Once you are done with the API key copy, navigate to the Cloud console. So you need to export this Datadog API key. So let us copy this Datadog API key and export this. So once this is done, let's run this kubectl get nodes. So it will list the available nodes. So we have 2 nodes here which is in a ready state. We are done with the task 1. Let's move on to task 2, deploy the Datadog Helm chart. So let us start by deploying the chart, passing in our API key. So let's copy this and execute it on our Cloud Shell. Here we are deploying our Helm chart. The Helm chart is deployed and it's using the default values.yaml file. So let's check our progress. Click on check my progress. So now the assessment is complete. We are done with deploying the Helm chart. So let's move on to the second task. Run the following to check the secrets that were created. So need to execute kubectl get secrets. Let me clear the screen. So execute kubectl get secrets. Okay, so here you find your secrets. And the Datadog is the very important since it was created automatically and it uses our API key. Next is we need to check if that secret contains our API key. To do that, need to execute this command. So let's go back to our Cloud Shell and execute kubectl get secret Datadog. So yes, we are getting the our API key. So this is the one which we had copied, and when we decode this, we are getting this API key. So it is having our secret API key. Okay. The other two token secrets are the ones used by the service accounts to communicate with the API key. So let's check the workloads that have been deployed. So to do that, we need to execute kubectl get deployments. Let me execute that. So this command will display the deployments, whatever has been done. So we find the Datadog cube state metrics. This is deployment. Is this Datadog cube metrics? So the Datadog Helm chart by default, along with the Datadog agent, it deploys its cube state metrics. So this cube state metrics is a service that listens to the Kubernetes API and generates metrics about the state of the objects. Datadog uses some of these metrics to populate its Kubernetes default dashboard. And this is a daemon set that deploys the Datadog node agent. So to be able to gather information from the kubelet and system metrics from each of the nodes, the Datadog node agent deploys at least one node agent pod per node. So now let's move on. Run the following command to verify the Datadog agent is running in your environment as a daemon set. So let's execute kubectl get daemon set to verify if the Datadog is running as a daemon set. So yes, it's running as a daemon set. Let's check how many pods have been deployed and to which node it's being assigned. There are two pods and it's assigned to two nodes. The Datadog node agent was deployed to the two worker nodes. So if you were running a Kubernetes cluster outside of the Google Kubernetes engine, you would have a control plane node, but the agent will not be installed there because there is a taint in the control plane node that prevents pods without the corresponding toleration being scheduled in that node. If you want to monitor the control plane nodes, you need to add a toleration for the control plane nodes. So in the next step, we'll copy this. So let's execute this command. Let's run now. So when you execute this command, you can see there are different checks which is running. You can see the details. So now we are done with the task 2. Let's move on with the task 3. Add a toleration to the agent. If you come to Kubernetes engine, click on clusters. So this is our cluster Datadog cluster demo. So click on this cluster. So if you navigate to nodes, so this is a node pool. It is using default pool. And when you scroll down, there are two nodes here. So there are two nodes running here. Because since you are using the Google Kubernetes engine, you will have two nodes running in a cluster. But other platforms, you will also have a control plane node running. Because in those cases, the agent will only be deployed to the worker nodes. So in this section, we will see how we can add a toleration to allow the agent to be installed in the control plane. This we can do it using the Datadog Helm chart. So as there is a specific section in the values.yaml file to add the toleration. To do that, to the main page on editor. So here navigate to DD Helm chart values. Here click on values.yaml file. So here you can see the configuration. So here on line 1071, let's go back here. Yeah. So on 1071, you need to add the tolerations. So let's copy this. Go back. So on the tolerations, we have added this. Let's save this file. Check the difference between the two value file. You can execute this command. So diff dd helm chart values. So you can run this and you can find the difference. So you need to execute this command to update that value. If it's applied, check your status here. Click on check my progress. It should be complete. So the assessment is complete. So let's move on with the task 4. Change configuration values from the Helm chart. So let's take a look at this. They are running this command and they're getting this error. So let's look at the error here. So the error is unable to detect the kubelet URL automatically. This error basically happens when you cannot verify the kubelet certificates correctly. And this is pretty common in development clusters. They're getting certificates is a multi-step process and not entirely needed in non-production environments. To solve this, you will tell the Datadog agent to skip the TLS verification. So in order to do that, you need to set the environment variable called dd kubelet TLS verify to false. Let me go back to values.yaml file. Here you can search with this. There is a field for hiding the environment variables. You can add the name and value for this. So let me just copy this and paste here. So we are setting this environment variable called dd kubelet TLS verify to false. So we'll skip the TLS verification process. This is done. Just save it. Now let's open the terminal and let's check the difference by running this command. Okay. See, here's the difference. So before there was nothing added. Now we have added the variable. Apply the updated Helm values. So in order to do that, run this command. So let's copy and execute this. Every time you update any value of value file, you need to execute Helm upgrade Datadog. Now this is done. Update is complete. So click on check my progress. The assessment is complete now. Then run the agent status command in the Datadog's agent pod running in the worker node. So even this is an example. You don't have to run this. Now let's move on to task by check the logs. Log collection is disabled by default in the Datadog Helm chart default values. Check that the logs agent is not currently running. So in order to do that, copy this command, go back to Cloud Shell, execute this command. So we are basically checking the agent status. So here you can see logs agent is not running because it is disabled. Let's go back to open editor. Let's go back to values.yaml. Check for log file. Okay. So this is a log field. You need to set enable to true and container collect to true. Once done, just save this. Setting both enable and container collect to true will enable the log collection and it will collect the logs from the containers in the cluster. So now again you can check the difference. So open the terminal, clear this, execute this. So enable was false before, now it is set to true. The container collect all was false and now it is set to true. Now whenever you update the values.yaml file, you need to upgrade. You need to apply it using this command. So now it's complete. Let's go back and check the progress. Now this assessment is complete. So let's run again the agent status and now it will show the agent is running. So if the agent is running, you will get all these logs. So it's showing the agent and the log level info. So agent was started. So it's running some checks. So yeah, all these checks you can see only when the agent is running. So let's go back. So now we are done with this task. Let's go back to tasks, enable the APM agent. So need to execute this command to check if the APM agent is running or not. So let's execute this command. So now we need to enable the APM agent. So in order to do that, go to open editor, go to ML file, you search for APM. So you can find the value enable to true and use socket volume to true. So here we are. So now save this file. Close. So we are going to use a Unix domain socket instead of using UDP. Now let's open the terminal and check the difference. Okay, so here we have we have set the enable to true and use socket volume to true. So instead of using the UDP for the communication, here you will be using the Unix socket domain. So that's why you have set both the values to true here. The changes to be applied, you need to run this command. So now this is complete. Let's check the agent status again by executing this command. Now the APM agent status should show OK. Okay, now the task is complete. Let's move on to task 7, enable the cluster agent. So far we have deployed the Datadog's node agent, which is a DaemonSet, which ensures that at least one replica per node in the cluster. Another type of Datadog's Kubernetes agent is the cluster agent that acts as a proxy between the API server and the agents. And it also provides a cluster level monitoring data. So this cluster agent is disabled by default in the Datadog Helm chart default values. And in this environment, since you don't have access to the control plane, you aren't able to completely install it. The cluster agent is disabled by default in the Datadog Helm chart default values. So in order to enable that, you need to go to the values.yaml file and enable the cluster agent. So check for the cluster agent. So under cluster agent field, you need to set this to true. Save this. You can close this. Now go back to terminal and run Helm upgrade to apply those changes. It's complete. So you can check the status. Now the assessment is complete. So you can now execute this command to check the agent status. So the agent status is okay. Check the agent status in the cluster agent pod by running this command. Completed the task 7, which is the last task in this lab, and we're done with this lab. We can go ahead and end this lab.